And I'm your host, Melissa Carr. I am the mastermind behind all of the low carb recipes featured here on the page, Low Carb with the Cars. I also have my website, Low Carb with the Cars, CARRS.com. And today we are making my keto pumpkin spice coffee cake. And if you have any memories of coffee cake, I'd love for you to share them below. My memory of coffee cake is with my Grandma Bettie, and she is my second mom pretty much. Every vacation and every summer vacation and spring break I always spent with her. She taught me a lot about cooking and how cooking is a way to share love. Every time we'd come in, it's, are you hungry? You need something to eat, honey? You know, and a coffee cake that way. But this way I have done is low carb, keto actually. Now if you have the book, follow along, page 20. If you have the digital book, it's also on page 20. A digital copy as well, which you can find on my site, Low Carb with the Cars, CARRS.com. So let's start making some pumpkin spice coffee cake. Woo! All right, so the first we're going to do is in a small bowl, we're going to mix up the topping ingredients. Now the topping ingredients we're going to swirl through the batter once we get the batter done, but we're going to get the topping ingredients together first so it can kind of meld up. Now I have 3 tablespoons of melted coconut oil, and I'm going to add that. See, I got it all melted right here. Now it's not too hot, it's just enough, just hot enough. And in my bowl I already have 1 tablespoon of ground cinnamon and 1 tablespoon of powdered erythritol. A lot of people know it as Swerve, but here we have, I got the Now brand. It's an organic Confectioners Erithrytol is what it's called. And I can get this from Vitacost. I think they have it on Amazon too. Amazon's been pretty good for the bulk prices of the ingredients. All right, so we also have Stevia, which you can, if you buy the packets, it'll be 2 packets. Otherwise, you're looking at about a ½ teaspoon of the bulk Stevia, which here it is. I was going to show you guys. I get this brand. It's a New Naturals brand. It's pure Stevia. Now you want to watch because they actually have a bigger one that's less money, but it's less money because it has fillers in it, and this one is pure. It's like a big huge pow. It barely takes any at all to get the sweetness in there, which I like. Highly concentrated, use a little tiny bit. This bottle is about $16, but this lasts me a good 2 or 3 months, and I bake a lot. I use it a lot. It's totally worth it. And you can find this one on Amazon too. All right, so we have the Stevia, the Swerve or the Erithrytol, Confectioners Erithrytol, the cinnamon, and I'm gonna mix that up. I'm gonna add in my 3 tablespoons of melted coconut oil right to it. And it's gonna be a big oily slurry. I'm gonna mix that up really good. And like I said, we're mixing this first so it can kind of soak up and quote unquote marinate. This is gonna be our swirl in the coffee cake. So we go ahead and mix it up first. All right, good and mixed, no lumps. Now instead of the granola, I am using plain chopped pecans that I have chopped up myself, and I've added a tablespoon of Monkfruit to it. You can see in there kind of nuts and a little bit of sugar. I'm just going to add that right to our bowl. And again, if you have the granola, you don't need the extra erythritol. I'm just doing that because I'm just using the plain pecans. Alright, let's get this mixed up real good. Now it's starting to come together. Alright, so we got this mixed up. What we're going to do is we're going to actually put the wet into the dry. So since that's the case, I'm using my biggest bowl, my biggest mixing bowl, okay? So you want all your dried ingredients in the biggest bowl because that's where everything's going to end up. Alright? Alright, so dry mixture. I am using 1 cup of my low carb baking mix, and this baking mix I actually sell on my site, Low Carb with the Cars, CARRS.com, and this is my baking mix. You get 2 full cups of the baking mix. Technically it weighs about 8 or 9 ounces, but whenever you get it, you want to put it in a big Ziploc, fluff it up, because when you measure, you actually scoop and then spoon into the measuring cup, which is what I did here. And it contains coconut flour, flaxseed meal, almond flour, collagen, and a little bit of glucomannan, which is a cognac root that gives it the thickening properties along with the flaxseed meal. And again, we have my low-carb baking mix, and you can purchase this on my site, lowcarbwiththecars.com. All right, so we have 1 cup of my low-carb baking mix in the bowl. I also have 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder. Okay, baking powder. Baking powder, baking soda. There is a difference. Make sure you check that because it won't rise properly if you don't get baking powder. I also have a 1/4 teaspoon of salt as well. That's going in the bowl. Now, we are using pumpkin spice. So what I've done is I've made my own recipe making pumpkin spice, which I actually have this posted in my group, which you can join from my page. It's a Low Carb with the Cars community. And there are files in there. And what I've done is I've done screenshots of my spice mix recipe. This is one of them, is my pumpkin spice mix. And I also have seasoning salt and steak seasoning and all-purpose seasoning and poultry seasoning and all that stuff. It's actually a little mini book that I have, but I have that posted in my community. So if you go ahead and join the community, you can check out the files. This recipe is in there. But we are using 1 tablespoon, 1 big bow right in there. Really lots of pumpkin spice. And in the bowl it goes. I just store mine in my little mason jar here. And then I'm going to also put in 1/3 cup of my powdered erythritol, which could also be called Confectioners Erithrytol. This is a Now brand. This is great. This is comparable to the Swerve brand. All right, 1/3 cup of the, see, I'm just pouring it in there. Actually, I add just a teensy bit more stevia. Now, the whole idea with adding a teensy bit of stevia is that it gives it layers, you know, more of like a depth of flavoring, a depth of sweetness. So let's whisk these all up. Just gonna whisk all the ingredients up, get them all well incorporated. This ensures that you're not gonna have any lumps. You're not gonna have any lumps of the baking mix. You're not gonna have any lumps of the sugar or the erythritol. All right, next to wet mixture. Now see how we did topping, set aside. Dry mix, set aside. Wet mix, doing that now. We have 3 eggs already in the bowl. We're also going to be adding 1/3 cup of sour cream. I already measured that out. And 1/3 cup of the pumpkin puree. All right, 1/3 cup of pumpkin is in the bowl. And our last is vanilla. I get the pure vanilla extract, you guys. Love that. Makes a big difference when you got the pure vanilla. And my favorite kitchen tool, the whisk. I want to whisk all this up. I want to get this well incorporated here. All right, you guys. Look at that lovely orange color we're getting here. Yeah. It comes together pretty quick. You know, this would be great for, let's see, bake sale. You know, we have like fall bake sale, a potluck. Take it to a potluck, and then everyone's going to love it. And they're going to go, how much your recipe? Ooh, and you're like, it's low carb. It's gluten-free. Yay! And then they're going to be surprised. I actually had some of my husband's friends try it, and they're like, that's really good. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't have any wheat. And it's sugar-free. Woo, woo. And they were like, no way. Like, yep, yes way. All right, we got our wet ingredients mixed up. Now, we're going to slowly pour our wet ingredients, boom, into our wet ingredients, boom, and while whisking. So I'm going to whisk the dry, hope you guys can see this here, whisk the dry, slowly pour in the wet. Now I'm going to stop just for a minute halfway through, kind of get the wet ingredients on the side in there. Alright, I'm going to scrape all that out. Anybody could do this. That's why I'm doing these videos, guys. I'm showing you that it's possible. And you know, sometimes you feel like, oh, don't want to bake today. And then you just get in, put on your apron, roll up your sleeves. See, my sleeves are rolled up. And get in and do it. It's worth it. It's worth having all these treats. Because you know what, you guys? me cooking like this, I have tons of treats to choose from now whenever I'm having a snack attack. I have lemon poppy seed muffins and chocolate waffles, and now I'm going to have some coffee cake. Alright, now you see the coffee cake? Now with the baking mix, what it does is it slowly starts thickening up. That flaxseed and glucosamine and coconut flour really gets it mixed up, thickened up well. And it doesn't have a coconut taste. It doesn't, it really doesn't. I really love coconut, so I don't know, maybe I'm biased, but. Alright, so we have all of that mixed up. Here, my favorite Pyrex, is it yeah, it's a Pyrex 8x8 glass pan. I love this pan. I use this for almost all of my recipes that you'll see using bars. I even use this for the chicken chili casserole. I used it for my berry bars. Lots. Very versatile. And with the glass, then you don't have to worry about anything getting into it, right? It's glass. Alright, now I have my batter all ready to go. I am going to put it into my greased 8x8 pan. You can sub in applesauce instead of pumpkin and turn this into an apple coffee cake. So instead of it being the pumpkin, do apple, and then instead of doing the pumpkin spice, do apple pie spice or extra cinnamon. It would totally work. They're similar consistencies and it would completely work. But it's the swirling. Now, hope you can see this here. See our topping earlier? It's kind of thickened up a bit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to plop it in little plops. And plop, plop, plop. Now it looks like, oh my goodness, I don't think this is going to work. I don't think all this coconut oil and pecans is going to work here. It's going to work. It is, trust me, it's going to work. This is my 5th time making this. I made it twice before I released the recipe. I made it again about a few weeks ago, and I'm making it again now. So, plop, plop, plop. It looks like a big, huge mess, and there's no way it's going to turn into anything good from just the looks of it, obviously. Now, it smells great, and it looks great, but all this I'm topping on the top looks like a mess. But I want to show you this. Now, start in a grid pattern. You're going to start at one side and just go, boop, up, 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 like kind of like I was cutting pieces out of it. Other side, we're going to grid 1, 2, and 3, and then I'm going to go side to side on the corner, and I'm going to do waves. Woo. Do the other corner. Woo. All right. And if you do the woo sound, it makes it better. So as you see, I swirled it all, and if you can see kind of how it's getting down into the batter. And what's going to happen is as it cooks, it's going to sink down into it, and it's going to make the best swirl, cinnamon swirl ever. So we have our keto pumpkin spice coffee cake going in the oven, and then we use today my low carb baking mix. I have the recipe on making this mix on your own on my site if you want to make it yourself. If you want to just buy it already done, I have it. If you want to buy a bag from me and try it and then go and make it yourself, that's another option too. The coffee cake is out of the oven. I have let it cool before I cut it, and I got about 9 pieces out of my 8x8 pan, and this is from my cookbook, Low Carb with the Carbs, Quick and Simple Low Carb Recipes, and this is from my page number 20 of the book. And I used my low carb baking mix, and this baking mix is available on my website, lowcarbwiththecarbs, CARRS.com. We used 1 cup of this in the mix in the coffee cake that we made earlier. The cake has cooled. I did have to let it cool for about 10 minutes, 8 to 10 minutes, because the way the baking mix sets up, it's very moist, especially with putting the pumpkin in there too, same scenario. And if you start cutting into it too soon, it's going to fall apart into a bunch of chunks. We don't want that. I cut out a piece. Let's see, I got about 9 pieces, 9 generous pieces for the 8x8 pan that I used. And you're looking at about maybe 3 carbs, 3 to 4 carbs per piece, which is, again, really generous. And here is my cut piece. You can see how the swirl went down into the batter from the places I ran the knife through. And it turned out wonderful, you guys. Yes, you see how I'm cutting it through here, how it looks inside. Take a little piece out, and it's light and airy, very moist. If you can see all the little places there where it poofed up. All right, so I would love to know about Coffeecake and what your experience is with Coffeecake. Have you ever heard of it before? I always thought it used to have coffee in it. I guess that was me as a kid thinking that. But you have it with coffee, right? The Keto Pumpkin Spice Coffeecake. You can turn this into an apple one. Use applesauce instead of pumpkin. Use the different spices instead of pumpkin spice. Maybe use extra cinnamon, nutmeg, whatever you feel like on that regard. Go to my site, lowcarbwiththecars.com, and you can download your own digital version. That's $9.95. And today we made the Keto Pumpkin Spice Coffeecake. But go visit my site, lowcarbwiththecars.com, C-A-R-R-S, lowcarbwiththecars.com. You can purchase the baking mix. You can get the recipe for, actually this coffee cake is on my blog as well. I'll post links below. Here in the kitchen with me, Melissa Carr from Low Carb with the Cars. Thank you so much for all of your support. I appreciate every single one of you. And anyone can make these recipes. I'm trying to show you how it's completely possible and you can do it too.